While the final mix for a scene like this, taken from Jurassic World, is easy to understand and exciting and emotional, it doesn't always start that way. There are hundreds and hundreds of audio tracks that go into making a film soundtrack, from the music, the sound effects, and dialogue, and they all fit together into this amalgam of sound that you see here. To really understand how film music works, I think you have to understand it in the context of the dialogue and the sound effects and how they get mixed together for the final soundtrack. And to understand this, we're going to turn to legendary mixer, 3-time Oscar winner, picture editor Walter Murch. He's done some amazing movies. Go check him out. And he wrote this great article called Dense Clarity, Clear Density. You can see it at the transom.org website below. And in it, he describes sound as a spectrum. From one side, the cooler side being language, which provides meaning, such as dialogue. And then on the warmer side, music, which creates emotion. Sound effects can live somewhere in between, such as this film, No Country for Old Men. There's almost no music at all. All the mood and emotion and embodied warmer sound is done by the sound effects. The sound of the wind here doesn't particularly push the story along, but it does provide a great sense of mood and context for what it's like out in the desert. Here's another windy desert scene, this taken from the Oscar-winning film Traffic.
Tú también, Manolito. Así está bien, así. Así, Javier. Dale. Okay, ya estuvo.
In this instance, the music is providing the sense of mood and emotion for the backdrop of the scene. Now, some sound effects provide a lot of meaning, such as this scene from The Godfather. There's nothing happening in the film at all. The sound effects tell the story, there's somebody coming. These encoded sounds that provide meaning and the embodied sounds that provide emotion are also mixed in a very specific way. Dialogue is always coming out of the center speaker, whereas sound effects are often spread across the front 3 speakers. And music fills up the whole room, gives a more immersive effect. The warmer colored sounds are given a much wider treatment in the mix. In order to understand how these encoded and embodied sounds fit together in the mix, let's take a look at a scene from Hugo, which won a few Oscars, including sound editing and sound mixing. In this scene, we have a wide spectrum of sounds. Some cooler sounds that provide meaning, some warmer sounds that provide emotion and mood. When we first open on the scene here, we have a zoom into Hugo, and while the music leads the scene, it's quite intimate. It's only a few instruments playing. The sound effects are established, these orange-colored sound effects of the gears and the clock. Then once established, they're brought down to make room for some of these cooler sound effects like the oil can and the dog licking. Sounds connected directly to the images on screen. Then, as the dialogue starts, the music actually gets much fuller, with the orchestra joining the small band. They work together nicely because they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. When the cafe band comes in, it joins the score and everything else comes out to make room for these 2 warmer colored sounds. Then the sound effects come back in as we establish ourselves in the clock tower, but only briefly before they're crushed by the music. And as Hugo goes down the ladder here, the music is pushing the emotion and the excitement of the scene, while still leaving room for little blue sound effects, such as a door opening. But then as Hugo goes down the slide, the sound effects take over, providing the emotion and the mood, and the music comes way down in the mix. These warmer colored sound effects create the sense of mystery and adventure as Hugo climbs through the clock tower. Then Hugo goes up the stairs, music comes in, the sound effects come out for just a little bit to make room for the final entry of the blue-colored, if you will, sound effect of the whirligig. If we listen to the rough sound effects just by themselves, we get to get an idea of exactly all that is taken out to make room in the push and pull for the other elements of the soundtrack. So here's this scene one more time, once again thinking of these sounds in terms of this warmer to cooler spectrum of sound. This time I won't talk so we can listen along. Good morning.
Good morning.
Here's another egg. Somebody's got some excellent stuff.
By understanding how film sound fits into this spectrum of meaning versus emotion, you have a better idea of how to use music and sound effects and dialogue to create the final mix for your film. Thanks for listening. If you find these tutorials helpful or interesting, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're still on day one. There's plenty more to come.